for not reading her work.
So the reputation with our ignorance.
Yeah. With our ignorance, yeah.
It's the American way of truth and justice, right?
Wait, what's the Canadian way?
Yeah, sorry,
we didn't read your books, eh? Sorry.
So, hey, this is Podcast episode 21. My name is Tim Mitchell, and I am sitting in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined once again by Jaime Lopez Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
And Jonathan Kuline over there in Mississauga, Ontario.
Hey, how's it going?
Ontario. All righty. So as we start every show, as we normally do, let's just do some fact-checky stuff. So do you want to jump in there, John, or I can do the fact?
Oh, you can do the whole thing this week. It's all you. Bring it.
Is it? Is it all me?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Yeah, so at 5:50, I said that I mentioned a tall black comedian who I met at Macworld, and it was actually Sinbad that I met at Macworld, not Shazam. It was an interesting conversation I had with him. He was there at the thing, and I just sort of walked up to him and said, "Hey, what are you doing here at Macworld?" He goes, "Man, I use a Mac. What are you talking about?" So he was there presenting something, but yeah, he was just there as a fan o Mac. So that was interesting. And then at 5:15, I mentioned the pseudonym spoiler kind of thing that was listed on IMDb, and the name that was listed was Javed Iqbal, which is the name of Shahzad Latif's father's name. So, and he used that name as the pseudonym placeholder until all was revealed a couple of weeks ago. At 25 minutes exactly, I was asking about how did Burnham manage to have the big fight with Ash Tyler, and then they marched him down to the transporter to blast him off into space. And when I went back and watched it, and she does in fact not join them initially, so she must have gone back into her quarters, called up Saru and arranged to have him pick up Ash at some coordinate. And then you put this one down, Jonathan, but at 25:01, Burnham's first officer on the ISS Shinzo in the Mirror Universe is Keela Detmer. She has the appliance, as Jonathan mentioned on the show last week, but in this universe she doesn't have it. She's the number one on the ship, and she's played by Toronto's own Emily Coots. In the Prime Universe, she's USS Discovery's helmsman, and that thing that she has in her head apparently augments her senses or something like that, which is why she has that.
Yeah, and did she get that at the Battle of the Binary after the Battle of the Binary?
No. She's had that since the very beginning.
Okay.
What we're missing is, remember on I think it was on the Shenzhou, they had that. Maybe Jaime might remember, but they were calling it the one that had the sort of mechanical head.
Yeah.
What were they calling her?
Ensign Daft Punk, but there is an actual character name from the novelization.
Right. Okay.
Daft Punk.
Wasn't sure because we haven't seen that character. I guess she got lost in the Binary Stars as well, right?
And so Donnie Darko?
Yeah, Mirror Universe version of her. So in the last little bit here you've got in here is about your list o dogs, Jonathan. So why don't you take that over?
Yeah. So in the after show last week, we talked about the most popular dog names in the city of Toronto, and we looked up how many Kirby's there were. That's the name of my dog. We looked up how many Macintoshes there are. That's Tim's. There are 2 in the city of Toronto, and we looked. After the show, we decided I would go in and have a look and see if I could find any Pollos, which is the name of Jaime's dog. Unfortunately, I didn't think to actually go and talk to Jaime about how to spell that. So I went in and looked up there and found out there are 21 dogs named Polo. There are 13 dogs named Yo-Yo. There's 6 dogs named Pixel, which Tim was wondering about because he may or may not have had a cat, according to the City of Toronto records.
Heard rumors
that was named Pixel. Yeah. And I looked up Polo, P-O-L-L-O, Pollo, because I thought that was like chicken, because that's as far as my knowledge based on Dora the Explorer goes in Spanish language.
Swiper, no swiping.
So I looked that up, and there was none of those. And so Jaime had a correction that is not how you spell his dog's name. It is spelled
P-O-Y-O. So it's anglicized intentionally. So you were correct and very astute that it is pollo, the Spanish word for chicken, that we anglicized because we knew that if we had to write it down like the doctor's office and stuff, it would get called out as polo or polio, neither of which was a good situation. So it's spelled like yo-yo with a P is how we usually explain it to people.
So I did look it up before tonight's show, and there is in fact one dog in the huge city of Toronto named Poyo, P-O-Y-O.
And there's at least one in Seattle, too.
And there's at least one in Seattle. So there you go. You've got a kindred spirit all the way across the continent.
Mm-hmm. We don't know why they spelled it that way, though.
This bears investigating. I say we take out an ad. Desperately seeking Poyo.
Yep.
Like on Craigslist or something.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Kijiji, come on. We're
Is
Canada,
your dog
right?
Poyo? Call. Hit us up at hashtag Spotcast.
Yeah.
Misconnections.
Misconnections.
All righty. Okay, so let's do some follow-up. So I guess this is all Jonathan. You didn't sign your name tag.
Oh, so yeah, all the ones that don't have names on them, that's me. Okay, so we'll start at the top. The nominations came out this week for the awards that continue to pour out. We'll start with the worst awards. The Razzie Awards were nominated this week. The leading contender for the Razzies for worst picture, worst actor, and a whole bunch of other categories was Transformers: The Last Night. Anyone see Transformers: The Last Night?
No, I didn't.
Well, apparently we were really missing out because let's see, what did IGN called it, quote, a massive shiny mess. So yeah, it got nominated for worst picture. It got nominated for worst actor for Mark Wahlberg, who also picked up a nomination for Daddy's Home 2. It got nominated for worst supporting actor for Josh Duhamel. It got nominated for worst supporting actress for Laura Haddock. Got worst screen combo for any two combination of human beings, two robots, or two explosions. And worst remake, ripoff, or sequel. Worst director for Michael Bay. And worst screenplay. It is literally nominated in every category except for worst actress because there wasn't a main actress. So
I heard that Jennifer Lawrence got nominated for something on a Razzie.
She did, and that was a bit of a kerfuffle. She got nominated for worst actress for her performance in Mother, the Darren Aronofsky film that came out last year. Sort of I haven't watched it, but from what I've been able to glean from reviews, it's sort of a horror thriller kind of piece. A lot of people felt that was a little bit of a low blow because she was doing a very, very different type of sort of avant-garde movie that of course it's not going to appeal to everybody, but apparently they felt her performance was subpar. This is a woman who won an Oscar a couple of years ago and is nominated like 4 times by the time she's in her mid-20s. So that seems like a bit of a stretch. But they also nominated Emma Watson. They nominated Tyler Perry for worst actress as well, which I think is a very progressive move for his performance in the latest Medea movie, Medea Halloween Boo 2. I mean, some good big names in there: Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, Zac Efron, Mark Wahlberg, Javier Bardem got in there, Russell Crowe for The Mummy. There's Anthony Hopkins for Transformers: The Last Night. So there's a lot of nominations in there for genre pictures and some household names mixed in there too. So apparently,
right.
Lots of mud to be slung in that one.
Just looking at this list, I think Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. I've not seen the movie, but just looking at the list, I think it got snubbed from Worst Picture. It has both Worst Actor in Johnny Depp, the main character, and Worst Supporting Actor, Javier Bardem, the presumed villain of the movie. Like, what else does it take to make it Worst Picture?
Yeah, it also got the worst screen combo for Johnny Depp and his worn-out drunk routine.
It's Keith Richards thing, yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. I think there might be our first snub. The Worst Picture nominees, of course. Let's see. So Transformers, we talked about. The Mummy, 50 Shades Darker, The Emoji Movie, and Baywatch. Those are the 5 worst pictures according to the folks at the Razzie Awards. The Golden Raspberries. Let's see, what else we got in the FU? So Wonder Woman, it was announced this week that Wonder Woman will be the first major studio film that will implement the Producers Guild of America anti-sexual harassment guidelines. So this is all spun out of all the stuff that we've talked a little bit about in the podcast. Obviously, anybody paying attention to social is well aware of the scandals that have been ongoing, all these women coming out talking about the harassment they've had to endure over the years in Hollywood. So Wonder Woman not only leading the way in box office and being progressive with a female star in a superhero movie and directed by a woman, it's now going to continue to be progressive and making sure that these guidelines are there to protect and try and stop the tide of sexual harassment on movie sets. So that's pretty cool. And it's nice to see how quick that turned around, right? Like that was, it's gone from, that being an issue to, these people jumping on that right away. So that's cool.
Agreed.
Let's see. Superman issue 1000 is coming out soon. And they've announced, it was EW.com announced last week. They had a picture from issue 1000, by Jim Lee, the famous artist. And Superman is going to put his underpants back on the outside for the first time since, they rebooted, the costume designs and all that several years ago. So, longtime nerds like me are very happy to see the return of the briefs on the outside look. I remember being a kid and thinking, I wonder how old I'll be when Superman or when Action Comics number 1000 comes out.
Really? Wow.
I remember abstractly thinking like, oh, it'll come out when I'm in my 40s, and that'll be so weird to think like if I'm still reading comic books when I could actually own a comic book that hit 1,000. Now there have been issues that have jumped ahead. DC did a crossover years ago called 1 million, where you got to read the 1 millionth issue of what each of these stories could be and stuff. But this is the first comic that's been going since 1938 to legitimately hit 1,000. So pretty neat, and fun way to market.
I heard today that there's also a story that they've an unpublished story by Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, that is in this episode or this issue as well. Yeah, I had read the headline on that earlier, but I didn't read the story. But I remember reading the little tagline that said they're not sure if Jerry wrote it, but they think because it's from that era that he might have. So either way, it's pretty neat to see an undiscovered. It was from 1945, undiscovered Star Wars Superman story from that era. That's pretty neat. A lot of that artwork and a lot of that work was destroyed. They used to recycle all the paper. They used to get rid of it. Yeah, for sure.
So some TV news. So they announced this week that Kid Flash from the Flash TV series is going to be joining the Legends of Tomorrow. That's pretty cool. Keenan Lonsdale.
Is that white Kid Flash?
Nope. That's he's African American.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So again, nice to see him getting a little extra room to roam. And so they've made some character moves in there this year, so they needed a little boost of some new blood in there. And it'd be fun to see what Keenan brings to the cast. Some sad news this week. Allison Shearmur, who was one of the producers of some of the recent Star Wars movies, Rogue One, Solo, A Star Wars Story, and the Hunger Games series, unfortunately passed away this week. She was 54. She died of cancer. Sad to hear about that, but thank you for all the hard work. We loved your work. There is a petition up to save the Inhumans television show. There has been some rumors this week again that ABC is quietly trying to get rid of this project because it did not do well critically nor with the viewers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is now 3,661 people who have now signed up on this petition to try and not only bring it back, but have a soft reboot with a new showrunner. Now that is some serious optimism. I can't say that I see that going anywhere. But
is that more signatures than signed up for Dark Matter, perchance?
That's a great question. I will follow up on that one because I'm curious.
Yeah, I generally don't give it too much of a chance to be successful, but if it was to come back, it would make a lot more sense to be on one of the streaming services, if anything, if they were going to go that route of taking the property and continuing or soft rebooting it. I could see it more like as a Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or CBS All Access, maybe Disney's sort of thing. I really couldn't see it coming back to primetime television.
So here's an important question. Has any of the three of us actually seen an episode?
I have not, and that's probably the best indication.
I PVR'd it, but never got around to watching it, and they disappear after 2 weeks on my PVR. So
I had intended to watch it because I am a fan of the comic book series, but it just got so scathingly ripped apart, and I must admit, from every bit, I watched some of the clips when they showed short clips from it. I watched the trailers, and I just thought, I always fight every year over what I'm going to make the time for, and that just didn't seem worth it. I thought, well, I'll give it a few episodes and see how it does, and if it's starting to gain some traction, I'll make it up and I'll catch up on the episodes. And it just sort of quietly faded into obscurity, and ABC has not mentioned it since. So I think maybe I made the right choice.
Cool. All right.
This week was Trailer-O-Rama, we got some awesome trailers this week. We got a trailer for the second half of Star Wars Rebels Season 4, which, as anybody who listens to this podcast regularly knows, I am a huge fan of. So they've only got 7 episodes left, apparently, and it just looks amazing. It rolls like a Star Wars trailer. Like, it looks epic and grand and really builds some mood, so I'm totally stoked about that. Saw the Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 3 trailer. That looks hilarious and gory and just awesome, and anybody who's into that is going to definitely want to come back for that. I saw the new Wrinkle in Time trailer. Did you guys have a chance to check that one out?
No, I've been reading the audiobook, if you can call it that, but no, I haven't. I saw bits of it today, but I haven't watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
I did not see the second trailer.
Well, I would advise checking that one out. I wasn't quite sold when I saw the first trailer. First trailer was a little more teasery. This one has some meat on it, and again, I still don't know exactly what's happening, but I have a much clearer idea, and you get a little taste of all the different performers and the costumes and set. I gotta admit, it looks really good. It looks really good. I'm starting to turn the corner on that one. Might be worth seeing on a big screen. New trailer for Tomb Raider, a little more exposition, a little more into who Lara Croft is in this movie. Again, Alicia Vikander, she looks fantastic. She looks like she's really nailing that character, and that one is again starting to climb up on my radar into something that might be worth going to actually see in a movie theater. Rampage got a second trailer. We actually get to see a flying wolf monster. I mean, it's bananas, but as Jaime very very smartly pointed out a few episodes ago, when you slap down your money to go see a Rock movie, a Dwayne Johnson movie, you know what you're going to get, and I think that movie trailer is way over the top, but you know what you're going to get. You're going to get some great popcorn movie time.
Yeah, I mean, that you're going to need to buy the big tub of popcorn, the big gulp of soft drink, and you're going to go in and you're going to see a very charismatic main character, regardless of how insane the plot itself is going to be.
Yeah,
so that's sort of why I anticipate and enjoy with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies.
Yeah, well, Jumanji was top of the box office this weekend again, right? So
yeah, that one's very quietly, especially in the wake of Star Wars, has just very quietly done well. It's taken the box office the last couple of weeks and has made a bankload of money, and you can guarantee that studio people are paying attention to that. Although it does feed into the whole we can reboot anything at this point, which I'm not sure that's the best thing.
Yeah.
And another nice trailer I saw today was I Kill Giants. A lot of people may not be familiar with that. It's a comic book that came out easily 4 or 5 years ago. That is an excellent comic book. Highly recommend picking that one up. It's out as a complete graphic novel you can pick up on any of your brick and mortar or online bookstores. And they're turning into a movie. There's a really good trailer up for that, and that is definitely worth a check out as well. And finally for me, I was just going to throw this in here. It's not really news, but Sara Douglas was a guest star on Supergirl this week. For those who were too young to remember, Sara Douglas was Ursa in the original Superman, the motion picture, in Superman 2. She was Zod's right-hand woman, and she was like right up there with Carrie Fisher for me on like all-time crushes. Just like dark and...
It was the leather pants.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Yeah, I was like, I was 5 years old, 6 years old. I knew I was in love. She had the bright red lipstick and the leather outfits. Yeah, she was fantastic. She's, I think I looked up the other day, I think she's 65 now. She still looks fantastic. She had a small role on this week's Supergirl. I recognized her immediately and got so excited to see her. I love how that series and those CW series pay homage to the people who have come before them. Of course, the original movie Supergirl is one of the cast recurring guest stars.
Their mom, yeah.
They brought Dean Cain back to be Kara's and her sister's dad. So they're always dropping these little "I love you" notes back to the past. And
Lois, but she's dead now, right?
What's that?
The girl that played Lois, the lady that played Lois, was Mon-El's mom.
Yes, they killed her off. Yeah.
You're talking about Terry Hatcher, is what you mean? Sorry,
Terry Hatcher. Yeah. Sorry, I stuck on the name.
Yep. And that's it for me. Jaime, what do you got for us?
So this one seemed to play into a couple of things we've talked about. One being Thor Ragnarok, and also Movies Anywhere, which came came up, if not in the main show, then in the after show last week. In this case, it regards with iTunes and Vudu, both streaming services, participating in the Movies Anywhere program, where Movies Anywhere is a program that lets consumers watch their movie libraries across devices and various apps. So hypothetically, you sign up with an account and you say, hey, I bought, Gremlins on iTunes, and if I switch over to Google Play or Vudu or what have you, whoever's participating in here, I'll be able to just watch it there instead of having to pay again, because these are disparate ecosystems for payments. Well, apparently there was some sort of mistake in the handshake of how this all works, because some users on Reddit, as it's reported here, noticed that when they placed a pre-order for Thor Ragnarok with Vudu, the movie showed up as immediately available on iTunes. So there's something kind of weird and funky going on with the release there. So thought it was just kind of an interesting tidbit. Presumably they've already closed the hole on this one, but wouldn't be surprised if you find 720p copies out there somewhere.
And, I was going to say, and I think the spin out from that was that it immediately became a pirated film too, right? It just started spinning out there as available for the people who are looking for the illegal downloads too.
Right.
Yeah, and of course, I have a comment about Movies Anywhere. I did look into it after we talked about it last week, and boo, it's only available in the United States. So
of course it is. But
that explains why you guys had no clue what I was talking about, because I only sort of vaguely knew about it.
Yeah. And to answer Jonathan's question from last week, it doesn't appear that you pay for it, but it looks like I read some of the terms and conditions, and I think you sign into your various accounts through it, and it joins them all up together. So
yeah.
So you have to put your Apple ID in there and all that kind of stuff.
We'll get it, but it'll be late in the fine tradition of things from America arriving here.
Yeah, it'll probably be running on HomePod, by the time we get it. Yeah, tune in for More Than Just Code for that comment.
Yeah. And Tim, you had some stuff for us too?
Yeah, so this was an interesting thing. I saw this on Twitter. One of the, I'm surprised, again, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised to hear that people don't like the Last Jedi, because there's all kinds of different things out there, rumors and innuendos and things about people claiming that things aren't canon. And one of the things that they claimed is not canon is the ability for a Jedi Master to project project himself or project objects, far across the universe or whatever. And that sort of holographic projection thing that Luke does with the dice. Spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it, and also with himself, and Snoke does some projection stuff work in the movie as well. But apparently, director Rian, I've lost his name now, Rian Johnson, proved that in fact on Twitter that he pulled out a couple of issues of, I think it was Jedi. Hang on, I'm just opening the link here. He pulled out a book called The Jedi Path, which explains that a Jedi Master has the ability to project a doppelganger or I can't even say that
simulacrum?
Word. Simulacraturtis. I don't know. Oh. Anyway, I'll put it in the link. Link in the show notes. That permits a Jedi to create a short-lived duplicate of himself or herself, or an external object that is visually indistinguishable from the real item. So that's how, and then goes on to explain a bit more about it. So that's how he's able to project, or these Jedis are able to project themselves. So people were complaining that this wasn't, saying of Rian Johnson that he'd done something that was not, within the realm of Jedi-dom, but apparently this is an official Jedi guidebook that was written at some point in the past and by Daniel Wallace, and it's considered to be part of Jedi history.
So take that, trolls.
Yeah. Yeah, you trolls, you.
It's an especially delicious burn, because, a big thing that a certain part of the fan base has struggled with is what to do with the extended universe, and how it's generally considered non-canon, and it's been rebranded as like the legends of there's a legend that, Boba Fett did blah, blah, blah. So to use a part of essentially the extended universe or legend stuff as proof positive that what you did was okay is particularly delicious for this.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, anyway, that's cool. Quick hit here. Netflix is now worth $1 billion. So if you got your stocks in Netflix, you're a happy person. But
wait, do you mean 100 billion? Because that would make...
Oh, sorry, 100 billion. Why did I put
yeah, because at 1 billion, that's a steal. I mean, even Star Wars itself sold for 4.
Wait, let me say that again. So Netflix is now $100 billion.
100 billion?
Yes, yeah. It puts it sort of up in Apple range, doesn't it there, Jaime?
I'm not certain. And for those who are really confused, no, Netflix did not announce any sort of update to their pricing program. Its market capitalization is worth $100 billion, just based on its stock performance.
Yeah, which is interesting, because we've talked often about on this show and other podcasts that Jaime and I may participate in, like More Than Just Code, that we're not sure how many subscribers there are to Netflix around the world, around the globe. Interestingly enough, though, was watching a thread on Twitter the other day about a guy I follow is going down to New Zealand, and he was wondering how to catch I guess it was Discovery down there, and apparently all the people down in Oz said that they watch it on Netflix. So clearly Netflix is taking over the world in terms of media content, things like that.
Well, I think we talked about that several episodes back. So Discovery was financed by Netflix,
right? Yeah, and
that's where it airs everywhere outside of Canada and the United States, I believe.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Good to know. So they get it for free, and Jaime has to pay like $9 or $5 a month.
Yeah. To be fair, the only people that have to pay for it are people who have it. Pay for it. I guess you pay for it in Netflix. People have to pay a separate fee for it outside of your regular monthly Netflix cable bills. Is our neighbors to the south?
Right. Well, and there was that sort of Amazon tie-in too that we talked about last week, where you can get it as part of your, I believe, Amazon Prime, but you have to pay the extra toll for it as well. So to get you coming and going.
Indeed, the double dipping there by CBS is, I mean, I don't personally like it because I have to throw down my $5.99 a month for CBS All Access, but putting on my hat as if I was them, it's like, wow, that's a brilliant business plan. You're getting money from the Americans, all the fans, and you're getting money directly from Netflix to distribute it across the globe. What could be better than that?
Oh, yeah. I have a quick follow-up on that same subject. I saw today, and I didn't get too deep into the story, but I saw that we talked about Cloverfield 3 in our movie preview several episodes ago. So there's a internet speculation out there that Netflix is going to purchase the rights to that film, and that's where it's going to make its premiere.
Really?
So,
but not in North.
Yeah. I'll try and dig into that a little bit more for next week's episode. But so that would be an interesting development. I mean, we were talking about how they're making these larger and larger forays into that kind of content, but to go out and scoop that's the J.J. Abrams project. He of course didn't direct it, but I mean that's some big territory to start picking things out of.
All right, cool. And I can't believe I'm actually scooping Jonathan on a comic book. I can't believe it.
Wait, what now?
But I just found out that Star Trek Discovery is coming out with a comic book called Succession, which follows the Dark Universe part of this season, the second half of the season, and it's coming out. It's been written by Mike Johnson, who I have no idea who that is. Of course, Jonathan does, and Christian Beyer, who is one of the show writers on, and she also wrote, I think, some stuff for Voyager, and that's coming out in April. So
cool.
So that's going to be neat, and it's a miniseries, comic book miniseries. So
yeah, I must admit, I have never been a huge fan of Star Trek comics over the years. I have dipped into a few of them over the course of my fandom, but it's never really sat with me. I've actually preferred the novels, which is strange because I'm a huge comic book fan, but it just they've never really done anything for me. So I'll be curious to see what the reaction is to that.
Well, we look forward to your reporting on it because I certainly won't read it. So there you go. Alrighty then. So I guess that brings us to the main part of our show, which we're going to talk about Star Trek Discovery, the actual TV show that's on TV and CBS All Access for Jaime. Our usual disclaimer, we are going to talk about Star Trek Discovery, and we're going to be talking about episode 12, Vaulting Ambition. So shall I take the lead this time?
Go for it.
All right. So, and I got to remember, so we start off as I said in the last episode, there was a preview last week, but we start off with Burnham and Lorca traveling to the Imperial Palace, which is actually a ship called the Charon, I believe. It's spelled Charon. And as I mentioned before, the code has been decrypted and put onto an iPhone 7 and sent over to Michael Burnham, and she explains to Lorca about how it talks about how to get back, but a lot of things have been redacted in the text, so they can't read it. Meanwhile, Stamets is stuck inside the Mycenial network, was where we left him with his mirror self, and so he's wandering around there talking to his counterpart from the mirror universe. Tyler Volk is in sickbay, losing his marbles, as Jonathan's got in his notes here. So he's flipping between being Ash and flipping between being Volk, and of course they have no idea what to do with him there. When Michael Burnham meets the Emperor finally in the throne room there, she says she greets her and says, "Welcome back," and glad to see you, and all that kind of stuff. And so here pick out a Kelpian for yourself. And so she picks one that looks suspiciously like Saru, and later they're having dinner, and the Emperor asks her how she is enjoying her Kelpian, and offers to eat her offers her ganglia on the end of her chopsticks. But before we get there, so as I said, Emperor Giorgio does reveal that she knows Burnham. In fact, it turns out that she knew that they were working together, and in fact, it seems like in our Prime universe, Sarek raised Giorgio after her parents were killed off, and in this universe, Emperor Giorgio raised. She may not have been emperor at the time, but she raised Michael Burnham. So she's a little annoyed that Lorca kind of stole her away and hypnotized her, or whatever he does.
Groomed, I think, is the word. It's groomed, very creepily used. Groomed her.
Groomed to overthrow her. Yeah. So and then all of a sudden, Giorgio decides she's going to personally execute Burnham. So she sends her off to the execution room called the Executioners. Meanwhile, Stamets is talking to his counterpart and trying to explain how they use the engineering, how they're using the mycelial network on the Discovery, and he sees Culber at the corner of his eye, so he starts chasing Culber down around and in one of those typical kind of sci-fi ways that you just sort of see him walking down corridors and things like that. So he chases him down, finds up in a cabin in their cabin where they live together, and Culber tells the Stamets inside the mycelial network that he is in fact dead and he's died, and so on and so forth. Back in the discussions between Burnham and the Emperor, before the Emperor has an opportunity to kill Burnham, she says, "Hang on a second, I got something that you might be interested in." This is where they totally lost me in terms of plot points, but Michael Burnham says, "I'm in fact not your Michael Burnham. I'm from another universe, and we got this technology to get here." So, and she hands the Emperor her Giorgio's actual comm badge from the Senjo, and this validates that in fact that it is from another universe, because they check the quantum signature on the metal, and the Emperor flips it over and sees that in fact it was Captain Giorgio's comm badge. So this all starts to the wheels turning in the Emperor's head, and she pulls out this little sort of throwing star kind of thing in a kind of a magical Star Wars or Star Trek kind of way. She flips it, and she's standing in a room with her lords in a circle, and she flips it, and it goes through the temples of all of the lords, and they instantly die. And she turns to the one man standing there who did the scanning, and his name is Lord Elling, and she says, "Can you keep a secret?" And he says, "Of course I can." And so she lets him live. Meanwhile, back on the Discovery, Saru is still trying to figure out what's going on with Tyler Volk. So he goes down to the brig to talk to L'Rell, who's got her back to him and refuses to cooperate with him until Saru reveals that in fact Volk has awoken inside of Tyler. And so they have a conversation about how, I forget where this part happens, but she talks about how or how they managed to put together this Tyler Volk melange, I guess, this kind of joining the two consciousness and bodies, and how they found Tyler's body in the debris of the binary stars and mapped him onto Volk and transformed his body and put him inside there. Back on the Charon, Burnham and the Emperor strike a deal to exchange the Discovery's design energy specs using the spore drive. There's a name for it, I forget what it is, but using how to use a spore drive in exchange for their letting them go. Which again, like, come on, I mean, I'm not dumb, but do you think that she's really going to just let them walk out of here, as it were?
And she's supposed to also, I forgot to put that in the notes, she's also supposed to give them the details about the crossover of the Defiant into their universe, so they can try and figure out their way back.
Right. Oh, so that they can do it without using the spore drive, I guess. Yeah, because it came through some sort of anomaly or whatever, right?
Yep.
There's always some sort of anomaly. Saru, meanwhile, beams Tyler into the cell with L'Rell to kind of convince her that that he's. She shows her a scan or like a video, a Vine. Honestly, it must be a Vine of what Tyler has done to himself. Apparently, he started ripping his chest apart. I guess I didn't really see it very clearly, but that's what I kind of
he's trying to get at the inner self or something.
Yeah, peel himself out of himself or something like that, right? So they beam his body into L'Rell's cell, and of course she's cradling him like you do with your dying or injured lover kind of thing. And I think she agrees to help do whatever she can to separate the two consciousnesses or whatever they're going to do with it, right? Lorca, meanwhile, is inside the detention cell, and he's confronted by the captain of the ship, who brings one of his buddies and says, if you don't tell us what, where she is, and he doesn't say who she is initially, but apparently Lorca has stolen away with this man's sister, and say her name, or I will kill this poor dupe who followed you, one of his loyalists. And of course, Lorca says, no, I won't. And of course, they kill the guy, right? So too bad for that. Meanwhile, back in the sick bay, Laurel puts on these magic gloves. I guess they're like those gamer gloves he used to wear in the 90s, and massages Tyler's head and fixes his brain somehow. Culber in the mycelial network says that Stamets needs to heal the network somehow, and when he does, essentially, it's like tap your heels together and just wake up. I think they did that on Supergirl last week too, or 2 weeks ago. And so he comes out of his coma, but at the same time, the mirror Stamets also comes out of his coma because he did the same thing in the mirror universe. He ended up stuck inside this mycelial network. So we've got here a point that mycelial network, or the mycelia, are dying on Discovery. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He goes into the big warehouse where they keep all the mycelia, and you can see that they're all wilting.
Right. Yeah. He goes into a Tilly, and so Burnham and Lorca piece together. Oh, so why do you have Burnham and Lorca?
There's a big exposition scene at the end of the. It should be Burnham and Giorgio.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. They piece together and they figure out that they're talking about the fact that Lorca must be the mirror Lorca, not the prime Lorca. And Lorca, when he gets out of the thing and kills the captain, gets out of the agony booth and he kills the captain, and he says, of course, the captain's sister's name is Amy, or no, Ava, I believe. Yeah. So in fact, he admits, to the audience, I guess, that he is in fact the mirror Lorca, and that's where the episode ends.
Yep. Yeah.
Ta-da!
Big episode.
Mm-hmm. We confirmed a lot of theories that we confirmed that Volk and Tyler were one and the same last episode. This one, I kind of said last week that I kind of wondered if Giorgio and Burnham had a prior relationship in this universe as well. Yep. And in fact, they did. It's like mother and daughter kind of thing, right? So in a sort of evil mirror universe kind of way, right? And we also found out that Lorca, as you guys surmised, that Lorca is in fact the mirror Lorca, which took a lot of people by surprise. I was surprised to hear that people claim to be surprised by that. I mean, I know I was, because you guys kind of revealed it to me last week, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think when you go back, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but I think this is going to be one of those shows where you can sit down on a Netflix and watch it back to back to back as a binge, and you can actually sort of follow those threads when it's not a weekly series. It's going to be a little more evident where you see some of these things going. They've done a good job by spacing it out, of sort of building the tension of maybe. There was a great, I think Tim, you had posted on our Spockcast's Twitter about the light, right? The fact that when at the end of the previous episode, when they were attacking, when the Chiron shows up and starts bombing the aliens on the planet,
the rebel scum,
yes, all the people on the bridge have to turn away and cover their eyes because they're much more sensitive to light,
including
Lorca, who is so they established that is one of the things that is a common trait to people in that universe, and Burnham's the only one who can actually look at what's happening, which is yet another sort of clue that we could have picked up that Lorca, they mentioned episodes ago, the 4th, 5th episodes, they mentioned that he has this problem with light, and they blamed it on the accident that claimed his ship in the Prime universe, but now we know it's just because he's a no good stinking mirror guy. So here's my question. Here's my question to the two of you. So what we learned about Lorca in this episode is not just that he is the mirror Lorca, but we learned that he had, we'll say, seduced a young Michael Burnham away from her mother, her adoptive mother. We've established that, in some of the behaviors he's shown in our universe, that he is a murderer. He's clearly manipulated things to get them here. So the question is Lorca the bad guy 100% for this series? And is he a redeemable character, or is he just the monster now? And has he always been the monster?
My gut feeling is that Emperor Giorgio is going to be the monster. She's going to be the bane of everybody's existence, because she's going to cooperate with Burnham now. She's going to say, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Just give me the plans. We'll let you go." And then she's going to pull that complete turncoat kind of like, "Did you think I would be so foolish as to blah, 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 and, throw them in the hoosecow, put them in the agony booths and all that kind of stuff, right? I don't know about Lorca. I'm not sure where that's going to go, because it's kind of, I think we'll have to have some sort of exposition as to his, grooming and seducing and, the backstory like they did with Sarek and Burnham on Vulcan. They'll have to have an episode like that where it kind of shows her, happily eating Kelpian with her mom and, mom, having Kelpian barbecue and that kind of stuff, right? Kelpian, yeah.
Ganglia.
With 18 herbs and spices, it probably goes really
exactly.
good.
KFC, man. KFC.
My take on it is, I think ostensibly he is the villain of the series because he's been manipulating everything this whole way, which to me means that Discovery is going to be really good, once this season is said and done. It's going to be really good to go back and rewatch knowing what we know and try to pick up on different things like, Lorca's kind of weirdly obsessed with Burnham for what appear to be non-obvious reasons.
Right, yeah.
That we says, oh, whatever, she's super talented. Just move on with it. It's a common Star Trek trope, right? I think I hesitate to call him just the straight up villain because I think I do agree with Tim that kind of more the direct antagonism now is going to come from Emperor Georgiou. But I think it's kind of more akin to the way that, with the exception of like the winter that is coming in Game of Thrones, there isn't like a direct villain, right? There's a lot of different houses that are trying to, maneuver around each other politically, and some are more virtuous than others, but some of the ones that would normally in like a normal TV show be considered the villains aren't really villains per se within the context of that show.
Right. And didn't Lorca play Hook? I'm sorry, or Lorca. Didn't he play Hook at one point in one show, one Peter Pan-y kind of thing?
Jason Isaacs, yeah.
I think I have a vision of him playing Hook, and also, well, of course, we know him as Voldemort's second-hand man in Harry Potter, right?
Malfoy, Lucius Malfoy, and
Lucius Malfoy.
I think he was a Captain Hook for some iteration of Peter Pan. That will need some follow up for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I'll find out if he was in Peter Pan.
So he always sort of ends up playing these. Mind you, I did see him in one show where he was, like I mentioned at the beginning of the series, or our series here, that he played a good guy in The Dig, right? But a relatively good guy. He had that sort of shady past. But I was thinking again what you said last week about Jonathan about we're trying to give me to give you my 90% confirmation that he was in fact the Mirror Lorca. In the scene where he's in the bedroom with the Admiral, and she says, "Where did these scars come from?" on the back of his. Yeah, that sort of, and he kind of, that one of course was the blah blah blah. That's what I was sort of saying about when Burnham shows up, she'll have blonde hair and she'll have a big scar across her face. I'm surprised that they're not looking at this Burnham going, "You're not the same Burnham,"
So is there a Prime Lorca? And if so, is it he's still alive somewhere, do you think? Is Jason Isaacs in for the long haul on this show, or is he a one-season wonder?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, we thought that Michelle Yeoh, we were kind of surprised by her sudden demise almost in the first episode, right? That didn't make sense. Yeah,
second episode, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, she kind of came and went real quick. Yep. So her coming back as the Emperor makes total sense now, because now she's got a way to, and if she's going to get the technology, and in season 3 and season 4, she's going to flip back and forth to Prime Universe and wreak havoc, and I don't know. I think there may be sort of there may be some sword crossing between the Emperor and Lorca going forward. Yeah, for sure. He's such a good character to sort of just have him be only around for one season, though, right?
Yeah,
it's not like he's Anthony Hopkins or something like that, right?
No, but I mean he's a legit movie actor. I mean, again, not that those worlds haven't blurred. I mean, we had news today that Meryl Streep is going to be on the second season of Big Little Lies on HBO.
Really? Wow.
So that for me is the death of that line. Like, if it wasn't dead before, it's dead now. There is no line between television and movies. When Meryl Streep shows up to be on a show, even if it's a limited run series, that's huge.
Well, that's doomed. You'll never watch that show now.
Meryl Streep? I don't have a problem with Meryl Streep.
Oh, it's the other one I'm thinking of.
Oh, you're thinking of what's her name?
From the movie with Michael Douglas.
Yes.
Was it Meryl
Shirley
Streep?
MacLaine? Shirley MacLaine.
No, Shirley MacLaine. Yeah, no, she's the mother of these women. No, it was the other one. What was the one about the guy who has the affair and she goes nuts on him?
Oh, Glenn Close.
Glenn Close, yeah.
Yeah, although Glenn Close is one of my favorite all-time movies. Ron Howard's The Paper. So,
there you go.
I could take her in small doses. I must admit, I'm still not huge on her Fatal Attraction performance. That was...
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah,
that was pretty over the top, but Boyle and the Bunny. So switching gears, I want to ask you guys about the plot line with Stamets in the mycelial network and his sort of conversations with his now dead boyfriend, husband. I can't remember what the nature of their relationship is. But it was at times kind of sweet, and those two actors have great chemistry, and you know, there was a lot of sweetness when Stamets asks the computer to play the opera that Hugh loves, that he hates. You know, there's some sweetness there, but I still ended up coming out of that with a bad taste in my mouth, and it was a lot to do with that whole, you know, sci-fi kill your gays. You know, there was a whole sort of, after he was killed sort of unceremoniously by Tyler a couple of episodes ago, there was a whole sort of pushback of, well, no, you're definitely going to see him again, and there's a whole thing coming, and don't you worry. And if this is it, that does not leave me feeling very good about how they wrapped all this up. If all that was we're bringing him back so that he could say that he was dead and kiss his husband goodbye, like that's kind of weak sauce, and I don't think that was an emotional journey that's very satisfying, especially for the milestone of having two gay crew members on a Star Trek show. Right.
Well, maybe they'll bring him back like they did with the Deep Space Nine, with the remember the captain of Deep Space Nine, and he had that sort of relationship with in that what were they called, the leaders, the legends, or something like that, the forefathers of the Bajorans. Oh yeah, the ones who live inside the wormhole. Yeah. So maybe he'll be like a wormhole entity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, he used to go and have conversations with them from time to time, right?
I don't know. That's the question. Like, does this mean that Hugh continues to exist in the mycelial network? Could he still interact with them?
Well, there is we know from,
I don't know. It's still,
we know from After Trek that there's going to be a dark guy, right?
Dark Culber. Yeah. Well, and again, maybe that's what we should, you know, get excited about. It still feels, I don't know. How did you guys see that one?
Yeah. Well, just on a side note there, releasing the mirror Stamets, you know, into his universe again by helping him get out, that kind of, you know, unleashes the dragon too, right? Mm-hmm. So, or the Kraken, as it were, because that's another potential nemesis, or adversary, as we're saying. You know, you're asking about Lorca and Giorgio, right? So yeah, there's a third one potentially there, right?
Yeah, and then now we also look at what happened between Voq and L'Rell. L'Rell used her, electrical gloves, her Nintendo Power gloves to try and heal Tyler Voq's mind. So are we supposed to infer from that he is now 100% Voq inside Tyler's body?
I was confused by that scene because she sort of stabilizes him, and he starts finishing the prayer in English instead of in Klingon, and she does the what appears to be the howl that alerts the people of Sto-vo-kor that a warrior is about to arrive.
Has left. Yeah, exactly.
So I was a little unclear. Like, I was under the impression Voq had died in some sort of sense.
And that maybe Ash has sort of adopted his memories somehow, right? Yeah. It's interesting. We talked about her possibly joining the crew at some point, and now she has a reason to, since they're all trapped in the mirror universe, right? Mary Chieffield's character, right?
Yeah.
L'Rell.
Yeah.
So that may be a case there, and this also brings back to the very first episode where I complained about having to read subtitles. You know, when the Klingons talk, because you know, in all the other movies, you know, in Search for Spock, they zoom in on what's his name? Christopher Lloyd. They zoom in on him. He's speaking Klingon at first, but when the camera pulls in close to him, he switches to English. Mm-hmm. English, Kaelish English. So he's able to, you know, so we're able to understand what he's saying without having to read subtitles. But it totally makes sense now, because now they started that separation between Klingon and English, so that now they could have a character like Voq / Ash who can flip back and forth, and we know when he's being Voq and we know when he's being Tyler, right? So that makes sense in retrospect.
So one thing I think that Jonathan asked about so if we assume two different possibilities, one, that this is the last that we see of Culber, like Prime Universe Culber, that he's dead. It's a better send off than I thought we were going to get. It was like, all right, so he dies sort of unceremoniously. I thought for sure, bringing back Stamets, part of that somehow brings back Culber as well, right? Like, it'll be, here's this like mycelial network power that, you know, dead fungus, live fungus, basically same thing, you know, the two halves of the same coin kind of thing. That didn't happen. But with L'Rell's abilities, and if there's mention of Mirror Universe Culber, I wonder, so I call this procedure scooping for Tyler and Voq. I wonder wonder if they can scoop Prime Universe consciousness or copy of Culber into Mirror Universe Culber, and that's the way they cheat to bring him back.
Yeah, or does Culber end up being like Stamets Orson, where he goes off into the corner and has prayers with him and converses with him, consults with him,
Yeah, you wonder if he could exist in that, like trapped in that universe. His consciousness is trapped there. Then every time Stamets goes to make the ship go, they could have an interaction again. It still feels weirdly unsatisfying, but I don't know.
Well, it's a typical sci-fi trope to cheat death, right? So
yeah.
So
death, kill gaze. That's where it's at.
Yeah, and I had a feeling that at some point, either during the season or for sure during the series, they were going to destroy or have the mycelial network be destroyed, and that would be the sort of tie-in as to why ships have warp drives at all instead of just zooming around everywhere they want to be. They sort of hinted that the fact that the mycelial network is dying, so I wonder if they're leaving the avenue open to do that very sort of thing, so it doesn't come as a complete surprise.
Yeah.
So 3 episodes left. 3 episodes left this season.
You know what I just thought? I have to go way back in the thing here, because you were just talking about killing off the gays, but they also killed off a bunch of minorities, and I just thought that, you remember the one that the what you call it kills off Reka somebody or other?
Yep.
You're talking about Landry.
Yeah, yep. Landry. She's going to come back, as Mira Landry, right?
Yeah,
somewhere.
So that's a weird little out. Again, they killed off. They had an Indian security chief. She died, so that's a woman of color.
Suddenly,
and sort of in a weirdly inconsequential way. And then now, so last week we had a gay man of color killed off, but they're going to bring back the mirror version. So they're bringing back mirror versions. Is it okay to kill off these, these great representations of, minorities and color and all these different, female characters in these great roles? They're just going to kill them off. But if they bring them back as a mirror form, it's okay.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that must be sure.
Yeah.
It didn't really happen,
Yeah.
But this is what I said last week or 2 weeks ago. Are you really dead if you're in a mirror universe, right? So,
well, as long as your contract is still getting paid for and you come back a few episodes later, sure.
Yeah. I mean, and why would you be excited about being on a show as somebody like Reka, forgotten her last name, Sharma, I think maybe. Why would you be excited about being on this show if you knew you were only going to be in like 3 episodes, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, it seemed like a really strange casting choice before we sort of locked in on this being a mirror universe thing, to have an actress who had some bona fides go in there and appear for a couple episodes and then be killed off. Now maybe we sort of thought, well, that's kind of very Tasha Yar, where they sort of have somebody in a position
and they bring her back in a mirror universe.
And they bring her back in a mirror universe.
And she's really a Cylon.
So 3 episodes left. Any predictions where we're going? 3 episodes to go.
So I'm looking at the list of names for the next 3 episodes. So they are in order: What's Past is Prologue, The War Without, The War Within, and Will You Take My Hand? So my head starts saying, oh, well, What's Past is Prologue is saying, hey, everything that happened in this season has been leading up to this, right? That's all been the prologue to get to the real meat of the story, the final sort of, hour and a half, let's say, like the movie premiere sort of thing. And The War Without, The War Within sounds like there will be some sort of space battles. The Charon,
Charon.
Charon, is that how I know it's like a Greek word, but I wasn't sure.
It's like Charon, Kate, yeah.
Yeah, it's Charon was the ferryman of Hades, carried the souls of the dead across the river Styx. That's an old Greek mythology piece.
Dante's Inferno.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's also the name of one of the moons of Pluto.
Right.
Which isn't a planet.
That ship looks like it blows up real good. So I assume that like a big space battle happens somewhere within, that episode, as well as The War Within being the how do you resolve these conflicts of dealing with, Tyler Voke and Mira Lorca and still sort of repressed feelings of guilt with Georgiou. And then the finale, the season finale, Will You Take My Hand, sounds a whole lot like it could be Lorca's like, will you join me on this trip, right?
Well,
like,
he said all along we're going to get out of this together, right?
Yeah.
Well, it feels like back to that, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Well, you know what's going to happen, though? Like the last episode is going to be a giant, huge cliffhanger where, Burnham has been working together with the Emperor and building this great plan or something. Meanwhile, Lorca's, outstretching his hand saying, saying, "Come with me, and we'll escape here." And they'll be like, "Okay, let's go." And they'll be, they'll pack their bags and they'll climb out the window. And just as they get to the bottom of the stairs or whatever, or the climb, Giorgio will be there with her, lasers pointed at them, going, "Aha!" And then we'll have to wait till next year to find out what happens.
Yeah, it does feel very cliffhangery. Like if you ended The Empire Strikes Back just at the "Luke, I am your father and join me" moment.
Yeah,
is what it feels like. Like just by the title and sort of where they're going with this season, that's what it feels like to me.
I never even noticed the parallel between Kylo Ren outstretching his hand to Rey, saying "join me," in the same way that Darth Vader says that to Luke. It just dawned on me when you said that.
Yeah. We have very similar kind of parallels there. And that's sort of what I think will, like, if I'm predicting right now, given we have 3 episodes to go, that's sort of what I think will happen for the season.
Yeah, we're not getting out of the mirror universe in 3 episodes.
No, and I kind of hope they don't. I mean, I liked that. The second half of the season has been a really satisfying, lots of, again, I saw some of it coming, but I like how it's been done. I like where it's going. I like that now at this point, but most of the threads that they've been weaving seemed to have come to some interesting little, plot points. I'm really curious to see where they go now that we have it on the table. Tyler is Vogue, so that mystery's gone. Lorca is, Mirror Lorca. We know that now. We know that we've met evil Stamets, we've met evil Giorgio. Like, I like how the chess pieces are set up. I kind of want to see what their, grand finale move is here to get us to the end of the season. But I hope it doesn't just end with them going, "That was a good adventure. Glad we're back in the Prime Universe now." Like, I don't think that will be a satisfying ending.
Yeah, and I think definitely the whole idea of being in this mirror universe means they get to bend the rules. They get to break the plot points and whatever. Because again, I often wonder. I was just thinking about this. Is if Discovery and the Discovery ship in itself and its mycelial drive and its ability to flip between universes is before Kirk and Spock, where is that technology when Kirk and Spock are around?
Yeah, clearly something's going to go awry there eventually in this series, so they don't continue doing that. I don't
remember owning a droid. Yeah, sure.
Or we'll find out that they, in fact, aren't from the Prime Universe. They're from another version of the Prime Universe.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, maybe there's like 6 universes or more, right?
Yep.
Right. They're from like that one universe that ends up becoming overtaken by the Borg. If you remember that episode with Worf in like season 7, where he's jumping between quantum realities. You guys remember that scene where they go back to the point and they do technobabble stuff to it, and all of these different Starship Enterprises or the Enterprise D all start popping in, and they're like confused as to what's happening.
Yeah.
But I think they probably won't go that way, because I think so one thing I've seen online with folks is that they're sort of disappointed in some ways, because I think they believed it was like a puzzle box situation, where I sort of take it as so puzzle box being more like what J.J. Abrams sort of famously did with Lost, and folks feel the Force Awakens sort of follows the same beats of like, hey, here are all these mysteries and threads, and we answer a question and we get 5 more questions coming from it. I don't think this is meant to be that kind of show. It feels now to be more like a dramatic irony sort of show, where we, the audience, know things about the situation that the characters themselves don't understand, and that raises the tension of like, are they going to figure out that Tyler is a sleeper agent? Are they going to figure out that Lorca is mirror universe person and he's been manipulating things behind the scenes the entire time? I think that's kind of more the show that Discovery tends to be.
Yeah, and imagine the shenanigans that Mirror Harry Mudd's going to get up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see.
Either way, big thumbs up. Good episode. Looking forward to more.
By the way, I didn't watch all of After Trek this weekend. It was Jonathan Frakes was on it with the gentleman who plays Stamets. So, yeah. All right, so let's move on to our wrap up here, which is going to be covering some of the nominations, I believe, from the Oscars. I think you've heard you mention them.
Yeah, so we'll have a look. So the nominees for the 90th Annual Academy Awards came out this week, and we got a nice. We'll have a discussion. There was some nominees that would fall into the sort of sci-fi genre categories. So I'll run down some of them, and maybe you guys can throw me your opinions as we go. So in the category of Best Picture, we saw The Shape of Water, which was Guillermo del Toro's new film, which by any measure is a a work of science fiction. We also saw Get Out nominated there, which is ostensibly a horror flick. Maybe thriller. You might stretch that to thriller, but either way. For Best Director, we also saw Jordan Peele for Get Out and Guillermo del Toro again for Shape of Water. So there's some good starts for the two of them. We saw Daniel Kaluuya, who we mentioned in our candidates for Best Actor for the Spocky Awards this year for Get Out. He got nominated for Best Actor. Sally Hawkins for Shape of Water as Best Actress. We saw Richard Jenkins for Shape of Water as Best Supporting Actor, and Octavia Spencer for Best Supporting Actress for Shape of Water as well. Best Original Screenplay, Get Out by Jordan Peele. Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro and Vanessa Taylor, and based on a story by Guillermo. And we also saw Best Adapted Screenplay. We saw Logan was in that category this year. Screenplay is by Scott Frank, James Mangold, the director, and Michael Green. And the story was based on, of course, X-Men comic books. It's a bit of a weird, I thought that was a bit of a stretch for adapting screenplay, because it's not like they took an actual story. They just sort of adapted the character. They called that an adaptation. But anyway.
For which one?
For Logan. Because it wasn't based on an actual comic. It was based on the characters from the comics. And they called that an adapted screenplay. I think it's a bit of a stretch, but it's nice to see it got a nod, because I think we agreed that was one of the best pictures we liked last year. Best Animated Features, Boss Baby, The Breadwinner, Coco, Ferdinand, and Loving Vincent were nominated. Lego Batman Movie was not. Let's see, what else do we have here? We'll skip through. Best.
Yeah, you got cinematography, Blade Runner.
Yeah, so
Shape
Best
of
Original
Water.
Score, Shape of Water, Alexander Desplat, Star Wars Last Jedi, John Williams. So 2 in there. And then we also saw, so this is where we start getting into the big running categories for Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner 2049 got Best Sound Editing for Mike Maggini and Theo Green. Shape of Water got nominated, Nathan Robitaille and Nelson Ferreira for Best Sound Editing. And Star Wars Last Jedi got Matthew Wood and Ren Kleiss. Sound Mixing, Blade Runner 2049 again, Ron Bartlett, Doug Hemphill, and Mac Ruth. And Shape of Water, Christian Cook, Brad Zern, and Glenn Gautier. And Star Wars Last Jedi is David Parker, Mike Semenik, Ren Kleiss again, and Stuart Wilson. And then Production Design, Blade Runner 2049. So that's Dennis Glasner and Alexandra Kirzola. I don't know if we consider Beauty and the Beast to be sci-fi. A stretch? No.
It's fantasy.
I've not seen this adaptation, but unless it somehow involves, going to a different universe or something that could be tweaked.
It's fantasy. Isn't sci-fi
it'd
fantasy
probably fall under
together?
fantasy. It's got a monster and it's got beasts and, okay. Yeah. Anyway, production design, Sarah Greenwood, and set direction by Katie Spencer. That got a nominee for Best Production Design. And I watched that movie. It has excellent production design. It's fantastic looking film.
The Beauty and the Beast?
Yep. I don't like it as much as like the animated picture, but I thought it was really well done. Shape of Water also got production design nomination. Paul Denham Osterberry and Shane Vio and Jeff Melvin. Best cinematography. This is always a great category. Blade Runner 2049. Roger Deakins nominated there. And Shape of Water, Dan Lausson. Let's see. We also have
you got film editing for Baby Driver. Don't forget our pal.
That's right. Our Edgar Wright's film got a nod for Best Sound Editing, and that again has terrific sound. That was in
film edit.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking about film editing.
Yeah, sound mixing, sound editing, and film editing. So, three nominations for Baby Driver. We also got Best Costume Design. Beauty and the Beast was there. Jacqueline Duran. Shape of Water, Luis Segarra. Best Film Editing, Baby Driver, Paul Mackless and Jonathan Amos. We also got Shape of Water, Sidney Walensky. And Best
Visual Effects?
Best Visual Effects. That's our last categories. Blade Runner 2049, John Nelson, Gerd Neftzer, Paul Lambert, Richard R. Hoover. At Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 nominated there. Christopher Townsend, Guy Williams, Jonathan Faulkner, and Dan Sudik. Kong, Skull Island, which I have not seen. Stephen Rosenbaum, Jeff White, Scott Benza, and Mike Minardis. Star Wars Last Jedi, Ben Morris, Mike Mulholland, Neil Scanlon, and Chris Corbold. And War for the Planet of the Apes, Joe Letteri, Daniel Barrett, Dan Lemon, and Joe Wist. So
that's a tough one to pick. I think,
that's a tough category. That's going to be an interesting one. I also think the best cinematography, we got Blade Runner, Roger Deakins going up against Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Shape of Water, Oscar. Roger Deakins, this is a guy who's worked on a ton of movies over the years, going back into the 80s. He did 1984, he did Sid and Nancy, he did Barton Fink, he did Shawshank Redemption.
Wow.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Beautiful Mind. This guy has had a killer career and he's never won an Oscar. So that would be one of the ones that I might if I'm making a ballot, I might think about that. His last few movies he's made: Blade Runner 2049, Hail Caesar, Sicario, Unbroken with Angelina Jolie, Prisoners with Denis Villeneuve. So he's worked with Denis Villeneuve a few times. True Grit, Skyfall. This guy has done some amazing looking pictures over the years. No Country for Old Men. This guy is a legit genius. So he might be an odds-on favorite for winning that one.
Sure. By the way, Shape of Water, the star who plays the fish monster guy,
Doug Jones from Star Trek.
Doug Jones from who plays Saru.
Saru, really?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I got to see that movie. That sounds interesting because I really do like his take on Saru because he's got a challenging sort of whole set of prosthetics and everything to deal with, and I originally thought he was just going to be space Sheldon Cooper.
Yep.
From like the first episode or two. I thought, oh okay, this is like be the whiny dude, who's super smart, and he's not. Like he's very he's got his own sort of challenges and he has his own moments, and the performance is done really well, like just with his eyes and his.
But he's checked out he was on Q today talking to Tom Power on Q Radio, CBC Q Radio, Q TV show. No, CBC Radio Q. And I went back to his IMDb page. He was the fish guy from Hellboy. Yep. He was also he's been in a bunch of Benicio del Toro movies. In Pan's Labyrinth, he was the big monster with the eyeballs on his hands, and a number of he in the Falling Skies he played one of the aliens in that. He's been in the makeup a lot. Yeah,
he was Silver Surfer in Fantastic Four. Rise of the Silver Surfer. Wow. He's been one of those under the mask characters for a long time, and everybody focuses on the sort of mocap Andy Serkis, and there's no question Andy Serkis is a genius actor, but Doug Jones doesn't always get his due for being really good at conveying a lot with his body and his head motions, his eyes. He's an exceptional actor who works under pretty daunting conditions and does an excellent job.
I'm glad that you said that because right before you did, I was thinking, wow, this sounds like a poor man's Andy Serkis. Of like, what's our budget? Oh, we can't afford Andy Serkis. All right, call Doug Jones. He'll do a good job. Yeah, for less money.
Pretty much. That's what it feels like. But so people kind of got up in arms this week. There was obviously some movies that were very popular at the box office that didn't resonate.
Like Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman did not get a single nomination in any category, and that includes some of the ones that you might have considered: Best Director for Patty Jenkins, Best Actress for Gal Gadot, visual effects, costume design, makeup and hairstyling. There was a great period work in the 19 teens, costumes and stuff like they did there. Cinematography was really good. The sound mixing on that was great. The sound editing was good. I thought the score was really strong. So it does feel like maybe it got a little snub. But
yeah, I don't know that I would argue as strongly for, and maybe this is my own personal thing because I have, as I've said on the show, I have issues with the third act of the movie.
I agree.
So best director, I'm like, you're going up against some tough stuff there. That's a really packed one. Best actress, also going against some tough stuff.
Yep.
I'm best visual effects. It's a really packed category, and the last third is sort of where I feel like some of those issues all sort of come into play. Kind of surprised on makeup, hairstyling, and costume design. And I'm going to pick on costume design. Granted, the Wonder Woman outfit was already designed. I'm sure it was tweaked in some sort of way for Wonder Woman, but it was already designed for the screen, essentially by not Justice League, Batman versus Superman. But if you've got stuff like Darkest Hour, right? Am I correct in thinking that's the one about Winston Churchill?
Yep. Gary Oldman.
So my mini rant, and I'm sure if there's any industry people who are not on this show, they're going to get real angry at me. But I think of costume design as design plus implementation versus implementation. So I feel very negative about things like, we took this period hit piece. It's like, yeah, you could go look at paintings and pictures of exactly what that is. And I'm sure it takes a lot of skill and work to make those sorts of things. But there's no sort of creativity in like, oh, look, this is exactly what Winston Churchill wrote, war versus, hey, what does this swamp creature look like?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like it's a completely different set of skills there.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I think, the one thing that we kind of agreed on in our first annual Spocky Awards this year was that, exceptional performances from Hugh Jackman in his last performance as Logan, and Patrick Stewart, I thought was really, superb, in his last portrayal of Charles Xavier too. Little disappointed that we didn't get to see either of those, although, as you say, Jaime, I think, those categories are pretty stacked. And it's hard to argue against the ones they chose. I haven't seen, Call Me By Your Name or Phantom Thread, Darkest Hour. Denzel Washington got nominated for Roman J. Israel Esquire. So I can't speak to those, but I know I enjoyed the performances that I saw, and it does feel like sometimes you feel like those even though they're conquering the box offices, these movies don't necessarily get their due. Sometimes they do. We do see things like The Dark Knight The Dark Knight break through and have a best actor or best supporting actor for the performance of the Joker. We are getting these occasional blips, but a lot of it just sort of seems like it's still on that second tier of what these voters are looking for. My personal favorite nomination is Christopher Plummer, Canadian, got nominated for All the Money in the World, which
Did he really?
which he was parachuted in to play this character as J. Paul Getty and pulled out Kevin Spacey, which I thought that was good. Again, I don't have any strong disagreements with these categories, but it would be nice to see something that is a slightly more reflective of the entire movie-going audience, and not just a bunch of old people who really like Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and finally, Donald Sutherland, Canadian actor of up there with Christopher Plummer in a sense, is also nominated for an honorary Academy Award this year. Yeah, he's
never won one?
Don't think so. Come on, Hawkeye, really? You probably don't get that reference.
Oh no, I got it. I remember the original MASH. Come on.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I mean, he's of course here he's a legend, right? Like, I mean,
Invasions of the Body Snatchers. He was like star of that one.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's true. I'm trying to think of whether he would have been sort of in that. He did. I mean, there was
played the main character in Slaughterhouse 5.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there was anything that was sort of of that caliber that would get you nominated for that, though. Let's see, Golden Globe. Oh, Citizen X. Well, that was TV show. That was TV movie.
You're talking about his stuff?
Yeah, I was just looking through his IMDb, but
you don't think a supporting actor for like Hunger Games is President Snow?
No, he was chewing the scenery up and spitting it out there.
Yeah, for sure. No, when I think of him, I like I said, Invasions of the Body Snatchers is probably one that comes back to me the most. That's the version he was in was probably the better of that particular movie as a sci-fi goes as well.
Yeah.
Oh, he was also in he was in a couple of he was in a Highlander movie too. It was really badly done, but he was good in it. The Puppet Masters, something or other. I'll have to fact check that one.
There you go.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Good book, but they ruined it in the movies. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's move on to our picks because we're running out of time here. So mine was real quick. I actually watched Get Out last night, which was interesting because I heard an interview with Jordan Peele. Again, Jordan Peele also nominated for writing, I guess, for the original screenplay as well as being possibly best director. And I think it was his first film as well.
Yep, first feature.
First feature film. Anyway, so I heard an interview with him, and they were talking about the sort of subtle racism in the initial part of the movie, which kind of intrigued me enough that I've been meaning to find out where it was, and I found it on our HBO or Go, which is TMN Go up here. And so I watched it yesterday, and I was actually surprised that it kind of, spoilers for those of you who haven't seen it, it kind of it has that bordello of blood, flip in the middle of the movie, and it actually does become a horror movie. I was kind of wondering why, as you're watching the movie and the pacing of it, you're kind of thinking like, when does it, in terms of like how horror movies actually work, like there's always, lots of like violent deaths and things like that, and shotguns in the belly and things like that, right? You kind of like all of a sudden it just starts, it has a couple of jump out of your seat moments early on, which is kind of classical or in a trope of a horror movie. I was kind of wondering, and he sort of talked about his inspiration from movies like Rosemary's Rosemary's Baby and The Shining is kind of those sort of character horror movies where you're nothing really blatantly happens, but it's like it's still a horror. It gets under your skin kind of thing, and the movie does kind of creep along in that sort of way, and then it gets all kind of twisty at the end there. So and it's enjoyable if you're into that type of thing. But I was kind of wondering when it was going to make that turn, or if it was going to make that turn and become a typical horror movie. Have you seen it, Jonathan?
No, it's been on my to-do list for a while. What's your take on Daniel Kaluuya's performance? I know that he's a lot of people are excited about him. He got nominated for an Oscar this year.
Yeah, good. I don't know. See, again, it's hard to say in a horror movie, like if somebody's acting is like super duper. The girlfriend in that movie, well, holy cow, she was good in that. Surprisingly good. I
mean, I think without going too far into spoiler territory, I think my favorite character is probably the TSA agent. Which I'm like, that dude needs to get a supporting actor role.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Nomination. But I agree with Tim that it's kind of a slow burn until the fuse goes out, and then everything goes like a lot of those other movies that you mentioned.
It blows up real good. Yeah.
Yeah. The last act is definitely different than the first two.
Yeah. You kind of it sort of has that. They do that in the Hot Fuzz. Has that sort of turn, where everything sort of seems to be plain the old English, village, and where this cop goes to work and turns out to be this, and they do it also in one of the Wallace and Gromit movies, where the city, the town planners are sort of nefarious and have this underworld culty kind of thing happening. You kind of get that sense as you're going through this, kind of in the same way that Rosemary's Baby. You kind of, I've never seen Rosemary's Baby, but it's a really good horror movie from the 60s, where it's very subtle as things start to happen, and you have this one character who's kind of going, this isn't quite right, and like this, I'm not sure this is how it's supposed to be, and it turns out to be a real twist in the end there. So good movie. I definitely worth watching. I think it's one of those one of those movies where people could spoil it really quickly, but like The Crying Game kind of got once there was no point in seeing The Crying Game once the secret was out, kind of thing, right? So I'm not going to say any more about it, but if you haven't seen Get Out, it's definitely worth watching. So So Jaime, you have a pick or something to watch?
I do. It's a series, limited series on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us. They say it's supposed to be 8 episodes, but only 4 of them are available right now. And each episode sort of delves into some of the history behind some of the major toy lines from the past. Star Wars is covered because, of course, it was sort of like the progenitor of, big action movies, sci-fi movies, fantasy movies, having, collectible tie-ins of some sort and action figures and whatnot, and how it sort of made the company that was Kenner. Barbie is covered in a different episode, and you learn a whole lot about sort of how that whole industry works, which is really sort of surprising. There's like
it's twisted
espionage that goes into and there's like a not safe for work sort of origination for Barbie, which is interesting. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is another episode, and that was keen for me because that was definitely a favorite of mine when I was growing up. And then they also have G.I. Joe, including both the more modern one that I was familiar with from the 80s,
with Life Like Hair and Bread,
inch, Sergeant Slaughter and cartoon show ones, and the one that Tim is more familiar with, the one with the Kung Fu grip and true to life bread. Is that what the term was?
Yeah, Life Like Hair and Bread.
Right. So I thought it was great. Like, they cover a lot of the behind the scenes of, like, they're flying by the seat of their pants in every circumstance when it comes to making these things. It's no different than any other sort of product development. So seeing how they come up with these things and how they became successes and how they, in just about every case, sort of flamed out as sort of a fad and fashion driven industry is real interesting. So if you like that sort of thing, if you grew up with any of these, I highly recommend you watch this on Netflix.
Yeah, cool. It's on my list for sure.
Yeah, I watched it over a couple weeks ago, and it's funny. It's weirdly the production value doesn't feel very high. It feels a little cheesy, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff. I loved the G.I. Joe episode. I thought that was fantastic. The Star Wars I kind of knew a little bit about because I'd read stories about that in the past.
And you have hundreds of those.
And the Barbie was also another one that was like, as you say, not safe for work, but some really interesting twists on how the guy spends his money after becoming a Barbie millionaire. And it's interesting. It's really interesting stuff. I haven't watched the He-Man one yet. That's the one I guess I've got to finish that one. But the other 3 I found really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to see what else they cook up there.
Cool. All right. So Jonathan, you're off to the races.
Yep.
Here.
I got just just a couple of quick things. For you, Tim, Wonder Woman is coming to TMN on February 3rd. So for all of you who, for all like Tim and the two other guys who haven't seen it, it's just no excuses now. It's on TMN here in Canada in a week.
Don't you have a disc of it, though?
I do. At some point, you and I have to actually, connect for that at some point. And story, this just came out today that some of the sort of deleted scenes. Now, we always get this whenever there's a novelization of films, that some of the stuff that was going to be left on the cutting room floor that was in the screenplay, or they've just decided to flesh out the book. So the novelization of Star Wars The Last Jedi is going to have some scenes that we didn't get to see in the film. Apparently, some of the things that they're going to include there are Han Solo's funeral. We're also going to get a deeper look at some of the characters as you'd expect. But I know Tim, you enjoyed the audiobook version of Force Awakens, where they sort of take it to some other different places. So I must admit, I'm a little curious to see how they depict that, how that scene comes together, a funeral for Han Solo, because we kind of just sort of skipped past that and jumped right into the action when we get to Last Jedi. So a little moment in there that we can sort of get in there, and there's apparently some scenes with Rose and Paige, her sister, that we see in the opening scenes of the movie. Some more look at Canto Bight and some other sort of tastes, and it'll be interesting. It's coming out March 6th.
Yeah, I think I was going to grab that copy. So the deleted scenes are going to be actually in the book, in the novelization, not necessarily.
They haven't said they didn't say if they filmed any of this stuff or if any of this stuff is going to be on the Blu-ray or digital release or anything. But they have teased this, that if you're a fan of some of this stuff and you want that extra layer, that getting the book or the audio book will give you a little more depth in that world. So
in the book of Force Awakens, you find out how Poe gets off of the planet and back to the rebels or whatever, because that was a sort of a plot hole in the Force Awakens. But I'll be checking that one out. I should also mention, I didn't mention in my picks, if I can just take a second here, I have been watching the Blade Runner behind the scenes stuff, because I got the disc as well. I was just reminded by my comment about the Wonder Woman disc, and actually it's quite good. I mean, to see how they kind of filmed a lot of stuff that they actually built sets. They actually did proper. They built cars, and there wasn't a lot of CGI in the movie. They actually went to a naval yard where they take apart ships, and the scene where he goes to the orphanage. That's actually a real place, right? So lots of practical effects is the word I'm looking for in that movie. So, which is very akin to how Ridley Scott would have done the original Blade Runner 2, right? So, because using real buildings in LA and that kind of stuff, right? So, actual, like when he's walking through the Las Vegas landscape, and there's all these crashed large figures, they actually made these big giant sculptures that he walks through. So,
and that's why that's how you don't make your money back at the box office when you.
That's true.
You spend all that money on production value, and hey, you get an Oscar nomination. Got 5 Oscar nominations. That's actually one of the highest totals this year. So they spent some money, and they definitely got some lauds for that. But
and I've said before, whenever I watch Blade Runner, especially now that I'm getting higher res versions. By the way, I have the Blade Runner on iTunes, and you mentioned last week about I'm talking about the original one, the final director's special / whatever. I have that one, and on my iPhone 10 it shows up as a HDR version of the video, which is I guess is akin to. We just got joined by Greg Heo, by the way. Hey, Greg, are you there? Oh, he's raising his hand. Hello. We were just so HDR is I guess it's akin to it's not quite 4K, but it's a special high like a double density kind of image, which is better than a regular image, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. High dynamic range imaging.
Right. Yes. Cool.
My 14-year-old can tell you all about it.
Oh, I'm sure. All right. So, hey, Greg, were you joined just in time for us to sign off?
Good timing. I was muting myself.
Yes, I see that. Yeah. Anyway, we're just wrapping up the show. So, so I guess we'll just wrap it up and say, hey, Jaime, if people want to find you on the interwebs, where would they look?
I'm on Twitter as @DevWithAHair.
All right. And Jonathan, if people want to find you on the interwebs?
I'm on Twitter as @JPK News.
And okay, Greg, since you crashed our party here, where can they find you on the interwebs?
I'm also on Twitter as @GregHeo.
All right. And my name is Timitra, TIMMITRA on the Twitter machine, and we will talk to you guys in the future. Bye. Right. So, hey, Jonathan, this is me, Greg. Oh, hey, sorry. Okay, bye.
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 That concludes another episode of Spotcast, streamed to you via subspace signal. I'm friend of the show, Greg Hio, joining you from Sector 001. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. You can get in touch with your Star Trek nerd hosts on the website or follow them on Twitter. They're at Spotcast. If you have feedback or questions, send them a tweet with the hashtag AskSpotcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending it to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount of Gold Press Platinum at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help them out on the website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future. Wishing you peace and long life.
So, Greg, this is Jonathan. Jonathan's my stepson. He lives in Toronto, or actually Mississauga. Greg is one of our interlopers here. He used to live in Toronto, but he moved down to San Francisco, where he was working for Facebook for a while. Now he's working for a cool
Fashion tech, we call
company.
it.
Fashion tech. Cool. So, Jaime and I are in FinTech, and you're in
Exactly,
Fashion Tech?
yeah.
Or Fash-tech?
Fash tech? No, that sounds like fascism or
Fash-tech?
something. That's no good. Fashion tech. Fashion tech. Let's do the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So Greg's a fascist?
Yeah.
He's going to do a really, really mean edit of
He's
the
a
show now.
capitalist, really. Yeah.
I'm glad we got a little bit of after show material out of this, because there was some weird irony, and we often talk about plot holes and like this part of the series or this part of the movie didn't make sense. Like out of nowhere, there's just like, hey, here's this Greg Hio character right in like the last 5 minutes of the movie. And we're like, what? Who's this person?
It's like Deus Ex Machina. Are you saying? I'm going to come in just save the plot hole.
Yeah, he's the plot hole. Yep, for sure.
That movie wouldn't have made sense until Greg showed up.
Yeah, he's the empty chair filler for the Oscars kind of thing, yeah.
Oh, what a job.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it. Might as well be you. Alrighty. So, yeah, that's it.
That's all.
Woo.
Wow, you guys record back-to-back like this all the time?
Yeah, and so we kind of sort of send Mark a little message saying, yeah, we'll be another 15 minutes or whatever. So normally what Jaime and I do is we end this call and we go off and have a pee break and then come back and start.
Just to call a bio break for polite company here. But
bio break. Sorry, yeah, we go have a bio break.
What time do you guys start?
Exactly. Normally, well, we try to aim for 10:30, but really, because that gives Mark time to get home from.
No, I mean, what time do you start this current show?
Oh, this starts at 9. This starts
so
at
it's
9.
like hour and a half.
Or sorry, it starts at 6 your time. Yeah.
Okay, hour and a half. That's a long time to chat.
Well, we do aim for an hour, but we get
Stuff
Gabby.
Happens. My colleague Alexis, he asked me today. He's like, "Do you watch Star Trek Discovery?" And I said, "No." He's like, "I was like, you have to pay for it on CBS or something. Is that still a thing? Is that how you watch it, or have they opened it up to Netflix or somewhere else now?" Not yet.
Well, in Canada, it's on Space, right? So we get it for relatively free.
Part of your cable package, yeah. But
yeah, everywhere else but the United States, it's on Netflix because Netflix paid for it, and but Jaime has to pay
CBS
$5
streaming or something like that. Is that
CBS
only
All
Star Trek,
Access,
or do you get other stuff like all the other wonderful CBS shows as well?
You get a handful. I don't think it's their full catalog.
Okay.
Like I think the Good Fight, the spinoff from The Good Wife, is on there. We're eventually going to get the Jordan Peele executive produced Twilight Zone revival, and I'm championing the idea that if CBS is going to bring back Murphy Brown, at least bring it to CBS All Access, so I feel like I get something for my $5.99 when Star
like
Trek
the original
Discovery
Murphy Brown, or a reboot of Murphy Brown?
No, they announced that today that it's coming back
with the same actor.
Yep.
Oh,
Candace
yeah,
Bergen.
I think it continues on.
Wow.
The painter guy, isn't he dead?
Yes, he did. He died several years ago. Yeah.
So he's going to be in an ashtray or something, or
yeah, they'll put him in the dust
They'll just
trapped.
They'll just cast Christopher Plummer and move on without even mentioning.
That's going to be our go-to for like, oh, you need to stick somebody in there. What's Christopher Plummer doing this week?
Yeah, so Greg Hughes, our Christopher Plummer, then I guess. Right?
Very much. It's Dr.
We're CGIing him in.
Yeah, put Mark's face on the CGI him in.
Yeah, we brought back Tupac. We can bring back this dude. Who's going to do?
Oh, I want to be a hologram.
Who's going to do
good idea.
the acting. Andy Serkis, no, we don't have the budget. Call Doug Jones.
Yeah. That's nasty. Is he Canadian, Doug Jones?
No, I believe he's British.
Oh, British.
Close enough.
Okay. Doesn't sound it. Yeah, the other thing too, if you want to watch, I think Amazon Prime is adding CBS All Access, but again, you have to pay an extra $5 or something. Yeah.
Doug Jones, actor. Hang on, I want to make sure I get it right. Since we're here, he's American. He is in fact American.
Okay.
Ooh.
Indianapolis, Indiana.
Not even a subject of the Queen. What were you thinking, Tim?
Yeah.
All right. Well, he was asking me if I watch it, and I said, "Oh, is it on Netflix or is it still that CBS thing?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he said it was. I think he said it's getting better as the season continues or something. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll listen to some more episodes.
Well, it got real good there
last couple of episodes, see what it's about. Or I guess it's very spoilery, the show, so I can't really listen to it until I've watched.
We warn you. Yeah. Okay. So that was going to be my next question. Have you listened to Spotcast at all?
No, because I don't want to be spoiled.
Oh,
because I'm worried that there's going to be a lot of spoilers, so I haven't listened to it. Is that a valid worry, or should I not bother and just listen?
We'll pick out episodes that we don't talk about Star Trek. There are a few of those.
Okay, yeah. I did, because I was telling my colleague how, like, you guys talk about Star Trek, but then I was like, there's only 11 episodes of Star Trek or something, but you guys have 18 episodes. I'm like, okay, obviously they're talking about something. Unless one episode is so good, they're talking about it over 2 episodes. But
yeah, this is episode 21, I believe we're doing right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So so what we did with Thor Ragnarok and Last Jedi is we did 5 or 10 minutes of spoiler free, and then we said, okay, we're going to skip ahead. If you don't want to listen to the next 10 minutes,
I see.
And then we just pulled all the stops out, right?
Well, sometimes you're not as spoiler friendly on the other show, so that's why I was just thinking, it's all going to be spoilers. I can't listen.
We say spoilers after we've spoiled everything.
After you just said, so that's great. All right, maybe I'll look at some of the show notes and find a show where there isn't too much spoilery stuff.
Or just start watching the show, and then
I know.
Play along with us, right?
That's true. There's the back catalog will always be there. The internet is forever.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting though, because we had a couple of theories here that have come to pass in the last couple of episodes, but we were building towards them, and Jonathan's always got a nose for plot points, and so he made a couple of predictions, a couple of many episodes ago, and a couple of them came true, and then this last 2 episodes were a bunch of big reveals of the Star Trek discovery. Okay. It could go an interesting way. We'll see what happens with it, right? Did you watch Next Generation and all those things?
Next Generation, I watched, I think that was airing while I was watching it back in the day. So I've seen the episodes all out of order, but I think I watched them all in order eventually. And Deep Space Nine kind of here and there, but in more recent memory, I did watch that entire series back to back, because I think that series is more or less episodic, if that's the word. Like, they continue the story. If you watch Next Generation out of order, you're like, well, whatever, this character is a little different, their hair is a little different or something, but it's not that serious. Whereas for Deep Space Nine, I feel like if you watch them out of order just randomly on network television, you'll be totally like, what? They're at war? They're not at war? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, I think that was a big change for that series. Right. So I did make a point of watching it end to end. I'm like, this is actually pretty good. They had its downs moments. I hate the mirror universe, but so I think those two I've watched. The other ones, Voyager, not really. Enterprise, not really. And the original.
Well, Discovery is definitely a serial. You have to you want to watch it from the first episode all the way to the end. What time
does it take place in?
It's between the Enterprise, which is Jonathan Archer version, and the original series. So it's before Kirk.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh no, actually, it's because Michael Burnham. Well, here's a bit of a spoiler. Michael Burnham is Spock's.
Spoilers. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's adjacent, like right before, maybe.
Yeah, Spock is a lot older, and he's older than Kirk. So by the time they get together on the original Enterprise, I think Spock's kind of grown up a bit.
What's the lifespan of Vulcan? He's like half Vulcan, isn't he? Anyway, full Vulcan.
Where's our fact check guy?
What's the lifespan?
I don't know if they ever explicitly stated a life expectancy, but I think there were some that are 150 to 200 years old that have occurred in the series, and it didn't seem like it was uncommon.
Okay. I had the feeling it was longer than humans, but they're not like elves in Lord of the Rings or anything like that. They're just like a little bit more.
And even by the time of the Next Generation, it's not uncommon for humans to be in the 100 plus range, given that Dr. McCoy shows up.
That's true. He's pretty like,
but he's
he can't even
100
walk
something
properly
at that
and
point.
such. So I don't know. That still seems.
Yeah, but don't forget Spock came into the Next Generation quite late, right? In the reunification series, right?
And he still seemed healthy. Okay, it's good to know.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got to break up for a moment, and Mac has to go outside.
Oh my God, he has a bio break too.
Outside, and he does too. Yeah, he was down here a little while ago looking for one. So we'll post a new meeting in the
a new meeting. Okay, so I won't stay on this one.
Oh yeah, Jaime just keeps the recording running. Okay. No, did you say something, Jonathan?
No, I'm busy looking up how old Mr. Spock was.
Oh, okay. Well, let's wait. Hang on.
Follow up for next week. I'll do an Ask Spockcast. What is the average life expectancy of a Vulcan? Half and full.
Well, let's see. Some fan extrapolation here says that based on his age at the original series versus where he is when he crosses into the Kelvin timeline, the estimate is he's 157 in the events of the new first Star Trek reboot with J.J. Abrams. So by the time he dies, he's probably pushing 160.
Okay.
And how would he have been in the original?
I think they said he was 35.
Oh, man, you came back in time. Oh, okay. 35.
Wow, that's pretty young. Yeah. Or, I don't know, for Vulcan in the future, that sounds kind of young. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm going to trust anybody's math, it's going to be Star Trek fan extrapolation math.
Yeah. That's a reliable source on the internet.
I feel like it is.
Or
if
Reddit,
anything on the internet is reliable, it's that.
Isn't that why the internet was created?
Pretty much. Star Trek trivia and Star Wars trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, folks. We'll talk to you guys soon and later.
All right.
Bye, Jonathan.
See you guys.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.